Hello students, welcome to your economics class. So let us begin today's class with first a recap of what we did in our last week, and then some discussion on the homework, and finally we will discuss the topic that is planned for today. So let's get started. Okay, so let's recall what we did in the last video. We discussed the population, we discussed the number of people working in a particular sector, and we found out that most of the people are still working in the primary sector, more than 50% of the population, whereas the contribution of the primary sector to the GDP, that is a gross domestic product, is still only 1/4. Whereas comparatively the secondary and the tertiary sector together, less than half of the population is involved in it or engaged in it, but they contribute approximately 75% of the GDP. So in spite of the number of people working more in the primary sector, their contribution to the GDP is less. This is something that we need to understand and recall. So what have we understood from this table that is shown in this picture? It's basically understood that more people are involved in the primary sector than is actually required. The number of people engaged in the primary sector is in excess, and so there is the scope there where we can cut the number of people working in the primary or the agricultural sector, because they are not really contributing much to the GDP in terms of their involvement in the sector. Okay. So finally it has been summarized. What we did in the last class can be summarized in these two lines, that the number of people working in the agricultural sector are underemployed. Now this is a term which is new for all of you. We are going to discuss in details this particular term, but for now you need to understand that as of now, that in the agricultural sector workers are underemployed, means below. When you say under, it means below. So we'll understand this further when we come across to the other slides. Also, there is no harm in removing the number of workers working in the agricultural sector. That if we remove the number of people who are engaged in a primary sector by a few number, or by if we cut it into reduce the number of people working in this sector, it will not really affect the production capacity of the primary sector. It would still produce as much as it is producing now. So this brings us to the learning objective of today's class. We are going to first discuss the concept. Actually, we are going to remember and revise the concept of unemployment. This is a term which you have discussed in class 9 in quite details, if you all remember, in chapter People as Resources, which was your second chapter in class 9. So we are still going to discuss it again. Also, we are going to understand the term underemployment, which is a new term for all of you. Underemployment in the context of primary sector. That is, we are going to understand why we see underemployment in the primary sector, why it is evident that number of people working in the primary sector is more than is actually required. So that we will try to analyze and understand why it happens in the primary sector. You cannot say that it is not happening in the other sectors. It is. We are going to discuss that also, but it is more evident, more seen in the primary sector. Why and how and what it is called, this underemployment, you are going to use a particular term for this, and what is that term? We are going to discuss that in today's class. So let's start with the first topic. So employment, a big term. What do you understand by this term? Employment means jobs, job opportunities, work, any kind of work that you do which gives you money, right? So that is employment. So that is, this image as it says is jobs, means employment in the term which everybody can understand. This is a term which is very commonly associated with economics. Now along with employment, we get another word, that is unemployment, which means you're looking for a job. which is basically the opposite of employment. Employment is where you have a job which gives you money, and unemployment in layman's language, in a common simple language, it means where you're looking for a job which would give you money, but as of now you are not earning that money because you don't have any job. So what is unemployment? Unemployment, you can also call it as open employment or unemployment also. Now unemployment or open unemployment is the same, okay? If you get this word open unemployment, don't get really confused. It means unemployment. Means a state or a situation where you are willing to work but you are not getting that kind of a job opportunity. So let's understand the meaning of unemployment. So it is a state, it is said to be a state where people are ready to work, willing, you have the will, you want to work, but and that too you are ready to work at the prevailing or existing wages. Means whatever wage or money you are going to receive, you are ready to work in that particular wage, but you are not getting a paying job. Now what is a paying job? Means a job where you get money. Like I'm working, right? So I get paid. Now if you are helping your mother at home, you're definitely not getting any money out of it. Your mother doing your household work, your father cleaning the house, it's not something for which they will get paid. So that is not an economic activity. Employment or unemployment, these two terms are always associated with economic activities, not with non-economic activities. Now to remember, non-economic activities are where no monetary gains are there. Economic activities are where there is monetary gain. So open unemployment, or generally known as unemployment, it is said to exist when people are ready or willing to work at the existing or prevailing wages, but they cannot find any job which will pay them. So this is the meaning of unemployment. You came across it in your last year class also. So another simple definition of unemployment is it refers to a situation in which the workers are capable of working. Okay, you're ready, you're capable of working, you're willing to work, but you're not getting any employment, right? So that is unemployment for you. Now unemployment, you also know that there are three types. Seasonal unemployment, wherein you get work but not throughout the year. There are some months of the year where you do not have any job, okay? Even if you want to, you don't get any jobs. Mostly seen in rural areas, among the farmers, mostly seen in the primary sector, where you cultivate, you harvest the land, you work on the land, you grow crops, but only for 7 or 8 months of the year. Rest of the months you are basically jobless. So that is seasonal unemployment for you. Educated unemployment, mostly seen in urban areas where people like you and me, we educate ourselves, we spend so much of money on our education, yet we are not getting a job for which we are qualified. Suppose if I am a qualified lawyer and I'm not getting a job, okay, because of that. So that is educated unemployment. It is a very, very big problem in India as of now, because people are getting educated, but according to that level of education, they are not getting any job opportunities. Finally, disguised unemployment. Now this is a term which we are going to understand better here, because in primary sector disguised unemployment is more evident clearly. It is there in the other two sectors of economy, but in primary sectors it is much more. Let's understand this disguised unemployment more. So disguise, before we come to the term disguised unemployment, first let us understand the term underemployment. We have now understood what is employment and what is unemployment. So what is this underemployment? What does this mean? It is a state where you are working, right? You are employed. It's not like you're unemployed. You are employed, but you are not used fully. You are underused. Your capacity to work or to produce results is less than what you could or can do. That is called underemployment. It basically means underuse of a worker. Suppose I am a teacher, right? I teach economics, right? So, and then the school has hired me as given me a job as a teacher, and if they only give me one class in a day, do you think the school is utilizing me properly? Of course not. My resources are not utilized fully by the school. So what should the school do? The school should give me more periods, more classes with students, more interaction with students. Then only my resources, my potential, my capabilities will be utilized fully. So the state or the condition where a person's abilities and his potentialities are not utilized fully or are underutilized is called underemployment. It is nothing but employment where a person is employed but he is not utilized fully. Let's understand the definition here. Underemployment is the underuse of a worker because the job does not use the worker's skills fully, like I just gave you my example, or is part-time. Okay, if I am given a part-time job, means I can work full-time but I am not given that job, so my resources again are not utilized. Or the job is such that I will have a lot of free time. Idle means the job will leave the worker idle. Idle means to give a lot of free time. So this is the concept of underemployment. Now what are the examples? The examples include any kind of part-time jobs or where a person is ready to work full-time but not getting a full-time job. Overqualification. I am a lawyer and I am working as a waiter in a hotel or a restaurant. That is my qualifications are not utilized. I have learned something, I have taken education in something, and finally I am working in a sector for which which is not required for me. Anybody else can do that job too. That is also a condition of underemployment. All these examples basically show that a person's skills, his qualities, his capabilities are not utilized fully. Okay, so that is underemployment. It is nothing but employment where a person's skills, his capabilities, his potentialities are not utilized fully. That is underutilized. Okay, now look at this picture. What is this hidden unemployment? Now, if like I gave you, a taxi driver here is shown driving a taxi, okay, but he is a qualified lawyer. Now, what should he actually be doing? He should be going to a court or working in some corporate as a legal advisor, but he's working as a driver. He's a cabbie. So what happens? So his resources is not utilized fully. He's overqualified for his job. That is hidden unemployment. Okay, so that is underemployment. In other, hidden unemployment is nothing but underemployment. A person's resource is not utilized fully. Similarly, another condition of hidden unemployment, and this girl is shown that I'm giving up looking for a job, means she's tired of looking for a job. She is qualified probably but is not getting any job. So that is also hidden unemployment. Another case of a person, a transport person, carrier. I wish this job was full-time. He is probably like a Zomato guy or any guy delivering in Swiggy or Amazon. Generally, these are part-time jobs. So what happens? He or she is ready to work more but not getting that kind of opportunity. So that again is hidden unemployment. So try to understand this. Employment is where a person has a job. Okay. Unemployment is where a person is willing to work at the prevailing wages but is not getting a job. Okay, and underemployment is nothing but hidden unemployment, means a person has a job but he is not happy with that job. Some examples are someone having a part-time job, someone doing something which is actually not utilizing his resources fully, he is overqualified for his job, or someone who has given up looking for a job and has started doing something which is below his education level. Okay, so that is hidden unemployment for you. Now, there is this example in your book, page number 26 of your textbook. It is talking about a story of a lady named Lakshmi. Now, she is supposedly a small farmer who is someone who has a lesser plot of land. Okay, here is saying that she has some 2 hectares of land which is unirrigated. Unirrigated means she is not using any artificial sources of irrigation. Could be canals, could be any kind of proper drainage or anything where extra artificial water facility is used to irrigate, to grow crops. So basically she depends on rainfall for all kinds of water requirement. So unirrigated land, that is why it's called unirrigated. Unirrigated does not mean that there is no water in the land. Of course they use water for agricultural purpose, but that is not artificial, that is natural in source. That is, they are dependent on rainfall. Now this unirrigated land she has of 2 hectares, wherein she grows jawar and arhar, which is a dal. Now there are 5 members of her family. All of them are involved in all kinds of agricultural activities in that particular plot of land throughout the year. Now we all know when it comes to farming, it doesn't happen throughout the year. You don't grow crops throughout the year. There are some months where you are sitting idle, free, because you, after the harvest, you have to wait for the land to grow in terms of fertility. You have to wait for the for all the harvesting things to be complete before you start the new cultivation. So basically all the 5 members are working the same plot of land throughout the year. Now they have nowhere else to go for work. All of them are involved in that particular plot of land. Now you will see that everyone is working. Nobody is sitting idle. Everybody is working, okay? But the fact is their labor effort, that means their capacity, their potentialities is divided. Each one is doing some work, but no one is fully employed. This is the situation of underemployment, where people are apparently working, but all of them are made to work less than their potentials. Means here their energies, their labor effort is their work capacity, their potentialities is not utilized fully. He or she can work more. Since 5 people are working throughout the year, so everybody will get some amount of work, okay? So we are not utilizing their capacities, whereas the same work could have been done by 3 members of the family, and 2 of them could have gone outside to work. So Lakshmi, this is the case of Lakshmi, which has been depicted in your books to explain you the concept of underemployment. Here in this story, all 5 of them are underemployed because they are not utilizing their resources, their potentialities, their capabilities to the fullest. Now, disguised unemployment, this concept where people are not working to their fullest, is called disguised unemployment, which is nothing but a type of underemployment, okay? So don't get confused. Disguised unemployment does not mean no employment. Okay, disguised unemployment is a type of underemployment. It is nothing but a hidden unemployment. This is something which they ask you in the exams in terms of objective questions. So disguised unemployment is unemployment, educated unemployment, or hidden underemployment. You have to remember it. Or what is, in one line they ask you what is disguised underemployment or unemployment. You can use both terms, disguised unemployment or underemployment. It means nothing but hidden underemployment, where a person's resources are not fully utilized and realized. Okay, now let's again come back to the story, page number 26 of your textbook. Here they have said that this Lakshmi, who has a small farmer, she has 5 members. Now if a landlord named Shukram, he comes and hires 2 or 1 of her family members to work on his land. So what will happen? Lakshmi's family will now be able to earn more income through wages. Since you do not need 5 members to look after a small plot of land, 2 of them can move out, which will not really affect the production process. So in the above example, 2 people may move out to work in a factory or anywhere else. Once again, what will happen? Their income, the total income of the family will increase. So disguised unemployment is nothing but hidden underemployment, where people are engaged in work where their capacities are not fully realized. In this story, they are saying that if Lakshmi's 5-member family, if 2 of them leave working in the agricultural plot of small land, what happens? 2 of them can go out and work in a factory or in somebody else big large farmer's plot of land. They will get some money, okay? So they will contribute to the family's income. Their income will rise. So this is a way where you can stop underemployment, which is very, very common in farming and agricultural sector. And this is what the agricultural sector or the farming sector is suffering the most, that is underemployment, the biggest problem. because every family has many members. Half of them are all engaged in this plot of lands, agricultural activities, but their actual contribution to the work or the production of the from the land is very, very less. If we remove those few people from that plot of land, their contribution production will never be reduced. Okay, so that is a problem which is happening, and that is underemployment for you, which is also known as disguised, where a person is not doing the amount of job that he can and he is capable of doing. You have done this in class 9, so I will not go more into it. Already I have explained enough. So if we remove the extra people who are working in the agricultural sector and give them jobs in other sectors, primary, secondary sector or tertiary sector, or some extra work in the primary sector itself, so what will we get? We will get that the increase of income of the family. We will see that the income of the family has seen a rise. So this is how you solve the problem of underemployment, wherein you reduce the number of people working in a plot of land or working in the primary sector and engage them in some other sector, or in primary sector only in some other particular jobs, and then you will see that the income of the family goes up. Okay, and then now let's come to the underemployment. Underemployment is seen in secondary as well as tertiary sector too. It is not so that underemployment, like I said in the very beginning, is only a phenomenon that you see only in the primary sector. Of course, it is more in the primary sector, but it is there in the secondary and tertiary sector, as is seen in the pictures I have shared here in this PPT. What do you see? These are construction workers, service workers, transporters, construction workers. These are all working, but they do not have a very stable kind of a job. They are also, number of people engaged in the jobs are much more than they actually is required. If you see a construction site, many people are working. If you reduce a few also, no, then it really won't affect the construction of that particular building. Also, disguised employment, unemployment does not mean that more people are only engaged. It can also mean that these people have unstable jobs, temporary jobs. They may have a job today, they may not have a job tomorrow. That is very evident right now, isn't it, during this COVID-19 phase. All these people are jobless, casual workers in urban areas. They do not have any kind of jobs. They are sitting idle at home. So that is the concept of disguised unemployment for you. It is seen also in the urban and rural area. Mostly seen in rural area in primary sector, but it's also seen in urban areas where all kinds of casual workers, painters, plumbers, repair persons, construction workers, street vendors. And what is common among them? The most common factors among them is that they all earn very low income. Their wages, per day wages is very less. They are exploited a lot. They look for better job opportunities, but they do not get it. And they are working there out of compulsion, out of force, not out of choice. If they are getting a better job opportunities elsewhere, they would definitely move. But because they don't have any opportunity, they are forced to work in these service sectors, mostly found in the urban areas. Also, their jobs are temporary in nature, like I said. So these are the various things that you see in disguised unemployment or underemployment. Okay, it is seen both in the urban and the rural area, mostly in the rural area primary sector, but also seen in the urban area in case of plumbers and painters. Like right now, these people are jobless, right? They are waiting for all construction sites to open. They are waiting for street vendors. You don't see anybody outside. Can you imagine what kind of plight they are going through? No income, because they depend on the daily sale of products, right? And whatever they earn on a regular basis is also very less. Right now, so they have no income at all. So that is their characteristics. Now, this is a very important question. Disguised unemployment or underemployment, meaning and examples. I'm going to share the answer with you all, but let's discuss it here a bit. So disguised unemployment is a kind of unemployment wherein people who are visibly employed but are actually unemployed. They look like they are employed, they are visibly employed, but actually they are unemployed. This is also known as hidden underemployment. In such a situation, more people are engaged in work than is required, seen both in urban as well as rural areas. In urban areas, if 9 people are engaged in a work, if we take out 3 from that or 4 people out of that in rural areas, the production will not reduce. Similar situation is also seen in the urban areas, where people who run services, small service jobs such as a small shop or a small business, number of family members are all working in it. Whereas if you let some of them go and look for some other job or get engaged in some other productive economic activity, they can bring better income to the family. So this is the problem of disguised unemployment for you. Now let's move on to this particular question, page number 27 of your book. Question number 4, why should we be worried about underemployment? Okay, we need to be worried about underemployment. It's a threat to the society and to the country, because it hinders, it stops the development of the country. Why? Because a person who is underemployed is not because he wants to be underemployed. He is underemployed because he has no other option. It is out of force, out of compulsion, which means force. Underemployment is a condition where you fail to realize the economic potential, means the capacities of a person, of the workforce. Workforce means the population, okay, the working population of the country. So underemployment is a condition where we fail to realize the economic potential of the workforce, and also not only of the workforce, of the whole society. Because if you are not realizing and understanding the economic capacity or the production capacity or the potentialities of one person, overall you are actually not understanding the capacities of the whole society as a whole, in other words the whole country. So we bring down the economic performance of the population. Wherever a person can do 10 hours of work, we are making him to do only 2 hours of work. So that is underemployment. So the whole nation has to pay the price for it, and finally it stops the development of the country. The next question, a very important one at that. You will not be able to understand what I have written a lot here, but the answer I'm going to share with you all in the form of a PDF. It basically, why I have put it here is I wanted to discuss it with all of you. Here the question suggests that compare and contrast the conditions of India in terms of sectoral development, how the sectors have developed, and compare it with the developed countries. Do you think the changes that you see in India is favorable in nature or not? Now this is very important. Okay, now we all know, when we studied historical evolution of the sectors, we knew that in all developed countries they became developed because there was a change, there was a shift of the economy from primary to secondary and finally to tertiary in terms of GDP contribution. Initial years, primary sector contributed the maximum, then slowly secondary sector started contributing more, and finally now the tertiary sector contributes the maximum to the GDP. Okay, similarly, number of people employed in the primary sector was more in the earlier days. Now, then it was the secondary, and finally now maximum number of people are employed in the tertiary sector. So, right now in all developed countries, in terms of production and in terms of employment, tertiary sector is the largest contributor. But that is not the trend that you see in India. What do you see in India with all the graphs that we did in the last 2-3 videos? We see that in the initial days, the economy definitely shifted. The economy shifted from primary to secondary and to tertiary. But the maximum production as of now is the tertiary sector, right? But the contribution of the secondary sector is actually comparatively less compared to the primary and the tertiary. The jump actually happened from the primary to the direct tertiary and less on the secondary sector. But in terms of employment, right now if you look at it, the primary sector does not contribute much to the GDP. Okay, first contributor of maximum contributor to the economy is the tertiary sector. Fine, and but in terms of employment, what we did we have understood that in terms of employment, tertiary sector is not the biggest employer. Still, even now, the primary sector is the largest and the biggest employer of people. Maximum number of people still work more in the primary sector, even though primary sector as of today do not contribute the highest to the GDP or the gross domestic product. But still maximum number of people are working. On top of that, primary sector has one big problem, and that is underemployment or disguised unemployment, where maximum number of people are working. This is the problem, and this is a trend that we see in a country like India, which is not desirable. It should have been the other way. When the shift happened from primary to secondary and finally to tertiary, similarly the number of people also should be working in the tertiary sector, should be working more. There should be more people in the tertiary sector, service sector, compared to the primary sector. But India, it's still not happening, and that is the biggest problem of India. Primary sector people are working maximum, but production contribution is still low compared to the tertiary. Now how can we change that? We are going to discuss it in our next video. Now, so let us summarize what we have studied today. We have understood that underemployment is mostly seen in the primary sector, where maximum number of people are employed. Then other term for disguised unemployment is hidden underemployment, right? And underemployment is what? It is a condition where people are working but their capacities are not fully realized. In disguised unemployment or underemployment, people are working less than they are capable of doing. What they are doing, they can do much more than that. So in underemployment, economic potentialities or the capabilities of the workforce, that is the people, okay, the working population, is not fully utilized or realized. So these are the important points. So let's move on. So the homework for your coming week is question number 1 and 2, page number 27 of your book. These are 2 short questions. You can fill in your book itself. No need to do it in the copy. Submit it to me, click a picture and send it to me by 30th of May. Okay, and let's discuss the homework of the previous class, which you did not do it properly, some of you. Now, this is the latest question which is there in your latest NCERT publication. Some of your books may have different years like 1950, 1970, but the equation remains the same actually. So, what you need to do here, the first question they are asking is basically to calculate the share of the 3 sectors in both the years in terms of GDP. So to calculate the GDP, first what you need to do, you need to total up the production, final goods and services of all the 3 sectors, primary, secondary, tertiary. So that is what I did it here. So year 2000, suppose if we take whatever the year may be, okay, it doesn't really matter that what numericals are there. You need to understand how you need to do this, because this kind of questions definitely comes in the exam. So primary, secondary, tertiary, you add it up, suppose in the year 2000, and what you get is the total value of final goods and services, which is nothing but the GDP. So you calculate the total by adding up the primary, tertiary and secondary sectors for both the years. Okay, that is your first step, to calculate the share, and then you do the percentage calculation, and you calculate the percentage. How do you calculate it? Suppose this is the amount contribution for primary sector, you divide it by the total amount, that is the GDP, and you calculate the percentage into 100%, okay, and that is how you find out the values, percentage of the contribution, because remember I told you that GDPs are mostly done in percentages. So what you need to do is you have to draw the graph. That is why you have to take it out in percentages. So that's how we took out. So what we did, basically whatever is the contribution value, okay, and you divide it by the suppose primary sector is 100 rupees, okay, and you divide it by the total contribution of the 3 sectors for that year, and you multiply it with 100%, and that gives you the percentage share of that sector in the economy or the GDP. We did it for both the years, and then this is what we got. For both the years, primary, secondary, and you can do a calculation from here. You can draw a graph. This is the graph I have drawn using the computer. So just to do a comparative study, you can draw any kinds of graphs, can be a bar graph or a column, does not really matter, but what matters is that you show the comparison between the 2 years. So we can see that if blue is the primary and blue is the year 2000 and red is the year 2013. 13. So there is a 13-year gap between the 2 years. So what do you understand from the table? That is what the conclusion that you have to draw from this particular thing, because any graph, any statistical analysis without a conclusion is zero. You will not get marks for it. So you have to do that. Okay, so you have to calculate first a percentage, okay, then draw the graph, and then finally let's come to the conclusion. So the conclusion is that it is seen that the tertiary sector, there is an increase of 10% over the period of 13 years, fine. But in terms of primary sector, there is a reduction of 9%. In secondary sector, the contribution has come down by 2%. This this analysis I have done on the basis of the data that I got in the form of a table, which I represented using a graph. Kindly complete this in your copies for those who have not done it, and show it to me on 30th along with the other 2 homeworks, right? So with this I conclude today's class. I hope you all have understood what I have tried to explain, and moreover we will be doing a Zoom session on Wednesday, the day we have the second class of economics of the week, and I will be discussing more on this in my next class, especially the GDP part, because some of you, I have a feeling, have not really understood that much, because many of you have not submitted the homework. So you still have time till Tuesday to submit me the homework. Kindly do so, and please do not forget to draw your margins, write your dates while submitting your homeworks, and please send me your names along with it when you send the homework. Otherwise it's difficult for me to find out who has sent, right? And probably we will be doing one more chapter tests in the first week of June for those who have those who couldn't really attempt it in the last class. So that brings me to the end of today's class. Thank you, happy learning, and have a good day. Thank you.